Meeting of October 21st, 2024 to order. Do we have a nomination for the position of town meeting moderator?
Yes, I do. I nominate Mary Ann Rosa as the town special meeting moderator.
Second.
Do we have any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed. Do we have a nomination for the town meeting clerk?
Yes, I do, if I may. I nominate Sue King as the special town meeting clerk.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations?
You need a second.
No, we don't.
Oh.
Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, nominations are closed. I will read the call of the meeting. The legal voters of the town of Watertown and those entitled to vote in town meeting are hereby warned and notified of a special town meeting to be held on Monday, October 21st, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. in the Town Council Chambers, Watertown Town Hall, 61 Echo Lake Road, for the following. Item 1, to consider authorizing an appropriation of the previously allocated American Rescue Act plan funds in the amount of $223,461, of which $96,581 will be used for the communication system upgrade project, and $126,880 will be used for the Crestbrook Park culvert repairs due to flood damage. Item 2, to consider authorizing an appropriation in the amount of $1,145,141 from the American Rescue Act plan funds for the communication system upgrade project. Item 3, to consider authorizing an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $256,397 for the communication system upgrade project. Anyone wishing to vote at the special town meeting must attend in person. Anyone wishing to provide comments for the meeting may do so by emailing towncouncil@watertownct.org or by mail to Watertown Town Council, 61 Echo Lake Road, Watertown, and must be received by 2 p.m. on October 18th, 2024. If you require a translator or accommodation for a hearing impairment or other accommodation, contact the town of Watertown at 860-945-5255, dated at Watertown, Connecticut, this 11th day of October 2024. Mark A. Ramo, Town Manager. The return and warning and notice, Town of Watertown Special Town Meeting. I hereby certify that on October 11th, 2024, I left a duplicate copy of the attached warning and notice of a special town meeting of the Town of Watertown, Connecticut, to be held on October 21st, 2024, with Lisa Dalton, Town Clerk. I further certify that on October 11th, I caused a copy of warning and notice to be published in the Waterbury Republican American newspaper, which has a substantial circulation in said town and placed upon the Town of Watertown website under legal notices. I further certify that on October 11th, 2024, I caused to be set upon the signpost nearest the office of the town clerk and all other places with signposts designated by the town, a written copy of said warning and notice signed by me as town manager. I further certify that all the above acts were done at least 5 days before the holding of the special town meeting on October 21, 2024. Dated at Watertown, Connecticut, 11th of October, 2024, Mark A. Ramo, Town Manager. Town Clerk certification as to warning and return of warning. I hereby certify the attached warning and notice of foregoing return of warning are duly recorded in the records of the Town of Watertown, and that Mark A. Ramo was Town Manager of the Town of Watertown on the date the warning and return of warning were signed. Dated at Watertown, the 11th day of August 2024. Okay. We are dealing with the expenditure of the funds relative to the presentation we had by the Police Department, Fire Department, and Public Works Department at our last meeting. Is there anyone with any questions relative to either the presentation or the funds?
Marianne, only because I wasn't here, I was out of the
Okay.
country at the time.
Sure.
So we have the 3.4 million Johanna Hayes money, and now you're asking for the 1.14 from the American Rescue Act, and then asking for another 96,000 from the town fund on top of that 4-point-something million? Am I understanding that correctly?
Funding sources, I'll read from the handout we got the last time. The Hayes grant was $3,375,000. ARPA funding, $1,145,141. Reallocated ARPA funds that weren't spent, $223,461. And from the general fund, $256,397.
So through the chair, I guess I'm concerned that we're dipping into the town's fund when, to me, 4-point-something million dollars to the communication system should be significant to fund the project. And if it's not, at the very end, they need some more money, they should be coming back to us for that. I'm against digging into the town's general fund when we're giving 4-point-something million dollars.
They did an entire presentation on the need and explained it all in detail, and we went over all the funds at the meeting. I'm
Is
sorry
there,
you weren't
but was
available.
it put out to bid, or was it just one vendor? Because there's several vendors that you could use.
I can't answer that. Maybe,
Bidding was the answer.
So it was not put out to bid. It was, were we using Norcom because they're under state contract?
Okay, so, I'm sorry. So you, through the chair, so there was no other vendor that was checked into to see the pricing of it? Because I know there's other vendors out there that could be used.
Correct. This was when we applied for the grant, and we had used that $3 million that we had gotten. It was all done through Norcom, and now we're just looking to extend it or add to it so that we could include fire and public works. But yes, correct, it was not put out to bid.
Okay, just so you know, I stand clear on we should not be dipping into town's funds. I'm all in favor of the communication system, but I'm not in favor of the 96,000.
we wouldn't be able to do the project and tie it all together, all three pieces, fire, police, and public works, without that money from the general fund.
And through the chair again, if that's the case, then I think it should be put out to bid. And other vendors should get a whack at it.
If I can,
Please.
the bidder is, what we do, when Norcom is, what was put out as worst-case scenario, $4.9 million. That is worst case. We think we could get it less than that. We go do all the soup to nuts. The problem is when you go to Motorola, National Motorola out of Florida, to order stuff and buy stuff, you get one shot to get your best price. That's what it is. So this, what we're proposing is worst-case scenario, is what's going to go on. We may never need that $250,000. We can work this out, get the best price from Motorola.
So the 250,000, but that's broken up in between the Crestbrook project and the communications project, right?
The one,
No.
296,000, I believe, that one there.
256.
256.
Is broken up into Crestbrook and part of the project. And that's from unused ARPA funds still. That doesn't come from general fund. money that's coming from general fund is 256 and change that's coming from general fund. And my feeling is we're not going to need that, but this is worst case scenario is what we're presenting through the Norcom. Like I said, when you go to Motorola for your best price, you get one shot. They come up and say, okay, this is what's going to cost you. And then if you come back and say, well, we're going to not take this, and we're not going to take that, it messes the whole project up and messes the whole pricing up.
And again, through the chair, that's why I like competitive bidding. I agree that Motorola is the top product out there, but I know that there's other vendors out there too. And I know they're inferior to what Motorola is, but there's nobody keeping Motorola's prices in check. They could be telling you anything they want to, and you're gonna buy what they say.
Not really. You know, we're bidding through the state of Connecticut. The state of Connecticut is the DAS services. They are working with Motorola, and they get the best prices through them with Motorola. So there is checks coming from the state. That's why we're using the state bidding process to do this.
And listen, I'm all for the communication system upgrade. I'm against digging into the town's general fund to support this when you're getting $4-point-something million and you're asking only for $250,000. I say only, but it's $250,000 out of our coffers, and they say, well, we may not spend it. Well, if you're not going to spend it, and you may not spend it, why not ask for it later on? That's just my point.
We can't ask later. That's like I said, we have to be prepared when we go to Motorola National to give the package price. This is what they're going to come back at. If we nickel and dime it, we're just going to screw ourselves.
Mark?
Madam Chairwoman, if I could just add a little context to this. So using a state bid is the normal business of the town of Watertown, and I understand there's other issues here. The additional piece that we didn't talk about again tonight was that we're going to utilize our Public Works Department to establish 2 more sites, which we find that we're going to be able to save some money in there. The whole intent was to ask for the money up front so that the money was there, as Chief Bromley has said, so that we could purchase everything without worry or running into bumps in the road. I would not promise this, but our intent is to get this under that, and we would not be utilizing that money from the general fund. That's the intent, and we're going to pretty much secure that by the work Public Works will supply for this. We went so far as even trying to obtain telephone poles for those sites so that there's no cost to the town. We haven't gotten a confirmation yet, but we're working very hard to keep this down as low as possible.
If I may,
Yes.
through the chair, I respect totally my colleague's concern, of course, for the taxpayers' money, as he always emphasizes. However, this was well explained to me in the presentation by the 3 tiers of public service, public safety, the deputy chief, Chief Bromley, the director of public works, and it was so well explained that I don't want to use the term, we don't want to wait to get shovels in the ground down the road. We don't want to wait to get the ball rolling on this. We don't want to wait for the next near disaster occurring or close to disaster, such as the heavy catastrophic rainstorm we had. They have to be on the same page, using portable radios in their vehicles, and I fully endorse this project.
Anyone else?
I do, through the chair. Mark, can you just walk me through the logistics of this $256,000? In other words, if we have the 3.4 and we have the 1.1 already, the 256, if we're going to save some money using Public Works, this 256 doesn't come out until they need it. You're not paying for this job up front, correct?
The structure of the payment, I'm not really up to speed on, but just to say that $256,000, we have to reallocate or allocate all our ARPA funds by the end of this year through contract. So by entering into contract with Norcom, we're stating that those funds are going to be used so that we don't have to give them back to the federal government, which obviously should be our biggest priority, is to make sure we don't give anything back. as far as the detail, the recapturing, those are items that we had allocated the money to and that were not expensed. We did realize that $25,000 of that money was supposed to go to paving, and it was not utilized. We did reissue that piece for Park and Rec to utilize that $25,000 for the Lake Winnemog boat launch. Again, it's not a perfect system, but I think this is in our best interest to move forward, secure our communications, and keep all our 3 departments on the same channel.
Sure. Through the chair, one more. I'm a bit just confused because I understand the monies that we need to allocate, but this 256 isn't part of that.
It is.
It is.
So,
Yes. We'll be recapturing that and reapplying it to this project.
so the ARPA funds end up in the general fund, and then you're reallocating them? Because this 256 is coming out of the general fund, correct?
I don't have those numbers in front of me to actually give,
Yes.
but yes, the request is to bring us to up to the $5 million estimated project. At the last meeting, the chief had actually worked the numbers with Norcom, and I think it was at $4.9 million, I believe.
Okay.
So we're $100,000 off. If you add that, the work that we expect the Public Works to do, I think we're going to be well under that threshold, and we will not be taking money out of the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, Ken, just to follow up on one of your comments. In general, when we allocate money out of the general fund for whatever purpose, once that project is closed, it then goes back to the general fund. So if the money isn't spent, it'll end up back there.
Through the chair, so can I just follow up on all of those other points? So from my understanding from our presentation last time, that this money, $256,397, as Jonathan just said, was money that we had allocated from ARPA. We're recapturing that,
No.
but it was in the general fund?
No, this is general fund. So
This is just plain old general fund money,
Right,
Yes,
not connected to ARPA at all?
right.
that last piece is not connected to ARPA at all.
Okay, all right. I know that it was in that slide, and this is probably on me, but I just don't remember that being very clearly articulated in the last meeting. So again, that's maybe on me, but I agree with Rob that is concerning, seeing that number. I must have missed that. But can I just clarify in what you're saying, is that 250,000 plus is for possible work that Public Works might need to do in that area of northern Watertown that doesn't get a lot of service? Is that, if I'm remembering that from the presentation, that they would actually have to do work to have the system work? But maybe they don't have to do the work?
If Public Works, so the total 49, it's 4,911,887 is, if Public Works wouldn't be able to do it, if this was going to be cost out at the highest cost. So if Public Works is able to do that with, Jerry is confident that we're going to be able to work and be able to take some of this, it will reduce that overall. That 4.9 million is the highest worst-case scenario without potentially getting poles at a reduced or no cost from, so to not have to put them up, to be able to have Public Works build the pad, but it is up in the Black Rock area and also where it is, Judd Farm in the barn, right, but also to get us to have the, right, for both locations.
Okay, so I guess I'm sorry, maybe I'm not being clear. So is this money going to pay for any works that the Public Works Department needs to do so we get service in that area?
Yes, but it might not cost where we have to use all of that money.
Okay.
Public Works, using Public Works to get us to have service in those areas where we have the dead spots in that map where the chief had shown with and without those two new sites. We're hoping that it wouldn't cost a
It's not
4.9,
gonna
that we
get
would
to
be
that.
able to have a reduction by having our own Public Works be able to perform it instead of having to subcontract out to another, Norcom having to subcontract it
Oh,
out where it would be
okay.
more expensive.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. And then can I just ask about the state grant bidding process? So did the state bid for Norcom, and then we're just relying on that state contract? Is that what you were saying? Or there's never been a bid, we just go with this company?
We just go with
because it's the best?
Well, because they're on state contract. So if you want to explain the actual intricacies, or,
I can explain a little bit. What it does, the state of Connecticut,
Chief, can you come up to the microphone? Sorry, Mary Ann.
the state of Connecticut with their DAS, Department of Administrative Services, they bid everything throughout the state. They have their own bidding process, own records, clerks, everything else, and they put out items they want bid for. So with the radio stuff, they put out to Motorola International, that Motorola, here's what we want, and they put out all the different things that Motorola sells. It says, okay, give us your price. So they look at the prices and then they certify that those are the good prices, is what the DAS does. So that's why it's easier for us, and a lot of people do this, they use the state contracts to instead of going out to bid, because they've already got the best price that can be gotten.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
To the chair, just one more follow-up question. Does the state contract also have Motorola's competitor
Yes.
pricing?
I believe they do.
And we didn't look at those pricing
No.
for this project?
Anyone else? Okay, we need the motions.
Okay. We ready? I move to authorize an appropriation of the previously allocated American Rescue Act Plan funds in the amount of $223,461, of which $96,581 will be used for the communication systems upgrade project, and $126,880 will be used for the Crestbrook Park culvert repairs due to flooding damage.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
I move to authorize an appropriation in the amount of $1,145,141 from the American Rescue Act Plan funds for the communication systems upgrade project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
I move to authorize an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $256,397 for the communication systems upgrade project.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
One opposed. The motion passes. And I declare the meeting closed and adjourned.
Recording stopped.